viewers out there, is there any chance you can hear me? I've got a new setup with a new webcam, and I don't know if I have a microphone. Frank, let me know if you can hear me. I've got a new setup with a new webcam, and I don't know if I have a microphone attached to my webcam. So if you can hear me, let me know. The reason I jumped on early is so I can figure this out. I'm either going to have to, if I don't have a microphone, I got to use my phone or I got to do something else. What does it sound like, Frank? Is it decent or is it, how bad is the quality, or is it halfway decent, or? Hey, Ben Wu, congratulations. First year as a DC. I'll help you any way I can. I'm glad you support us and glad you watch what we do. Can y'all, a little quiet quality is but yeah, I guess it'll work. I appreciate y'all for that. But what happened was the laptop that I had was kind of, there's got to be a way to turn the volume up on this microphone because it's got, the laptop that I had went bad, and I didn't feel like spending $600 or $700 on a new laptop. And I got a webcam from a friend of mine, and I've got an old-fashioned CPU with a tower, and I got a webcam, and a webcam works perfect. The picture is actually better than my laptop, but I didn't know how a microphone would work, and I had a plug-in microphone, but my computer wouldn't recognize the device driver. So I'm trying to work it out this way the best I can. And on my end, it says that the volume on the mic is low. But when I click on the mic at the bottom, I can't seem to raise the volume. So I know on my end, I know that the volume on a mic has one dot, which means I should be able to raise it. But on this old-fashioned CPU tower with a regular keyboard, I don't know which control keys I would hit to raise the volume. And there's nothing on the webcam, the Logitech webcam that I have. There's nothing on that that tells you how to raise the volume. So the reason I jumped on 20 minutes early, I'm glad you guys are here if you can hear me. But the reason I jumped on early is because I wanted to figure this all out, because I think I could go to my old laptop if I have to and get hooked up to YouTube Live and do what I need to do. But I'm trying to figure out some new things without having to buy a new laptop. So I'm trying to kind of play through all that right now. So I wonder somewhere in my settings if there's a microphone setting. Sorry guys, I'm just going through my settings with my webcam and everything else and figuring out if there's a way. Some of you out there that are YKDV, I know that I need to turn up my volume, but I can't figure out how. I'm on an old-fashioned computer tower, and I have a webcam from Logitech attached to my monitor, and I don't know where the hell the mic that's in my webcam, I don't know how to turn the volume up on that. That's the issue that I'm having. So while you're out there, if you can help me, go ahead and help me. But I'm going to look it up on my damn phone. I do have a headset, but this headset doesn't seem to work. In the headset, is that better, Ben Wu? Because it tells me that my device driver doesn't recognize the. Okay, then the website that I'm sorry, the headset is perfect, but when I tried to when I installed the and this is like old fashioned 20 years ago headset plug-in USB device. You would think with a website on YouTube and the followers that I have that I'd be better with this, but I am so ass backwards on technology. And so when I got this headset, I plugged it into my USB device, but then it told me that there was a device driver problem. So I'm used to old fashioned Xbox with a headset talking to my friends playing Call of Duty. So if this works and you guys are cool with it, then I'll just roll with this. It's absolutely awesome. I love it. But I am so technologically backwards. But if this works, then let's do it. Yeah, there's a lot of things wrong with old school, Bradley. It's good for a little bit, but when you run a YouTube channel like I run, you think you'd be able to figure out how to get a great laptop. My laptops are shitty. For all of you that follow me, I have no problem telling you this, but I have a lot of cats in my house with my wife and my daughters, and my laptops all get pissed on by my cats. And I have two laptops that are not functioning because they were pissed on, and I refuse to go out and spend $700 on a great laptop or whatever. I had at one point a MacBook at one school I was working at, and I refuse to go out and spend money on that in a house that I know my cats have access to all my stuff. And so I got an old fashioned tower built for me from a friend of mine, and I got a webcam from Logitech. The picture is awesome, in my opinion. I think the picture looks great as opposed to my other laptop. And now, if the headset works great, then I'll just roll with it because I refuse to spend money for something good that I know is going to get ruined. That's why I got on here early. And now that we got it figured out, if this headset is great and hopefully is the picture good, because on my end, from what I see, the Logitech webcam that I'm using is better than my old laptop, in my opinion. So we're about 11 minutes early. I think I had it set up for 8:30. So we'll just continue to kind of shoot the crap for the next 10 minutes until everybody gets here. If you guys have any questions, I'll answer them now while you guys are here. I appreciate you being here. I had this set up for 8:30, and the reason I jumped on live early was just because I knew I was going to have issues with the headset and everything else. And now that the headset works and the webcam works, I'm good to go. So let's roll. Scheduling for the weekend. I've tossed around the idea of getting rid of team dinners during the week and going to Saturday team breakfast before film. We currently been that is a personal preference depending on where you are. We do not do anything on Saturdays right now with our team. But I know a lot of people in the state of Florida and a lot of the people that I work with that do Saturday films, and they bring their trainers in and they do rehab, and they take care of some minor injury things, and they serve breakfast and they do film. So I think Saturday film is okay. I don't know if you need to. I don't know if you need to get rid of the team dinner. I don't see why you couldn't do both, Ben, depending on your budget with your team. I don't see why you couldn't do a team dinner during the week and a Saturday film and breakfast, depending on your budget. If it was a matter of time, they can both be done. And if I had the access and the budget to do so, I would do both of them. If it's a budget issue and you want to figure out which one is which and which one's going to be better or worth more for your team, that's a toss up, and I don't know where I would lean right now. We get away with not having Saturday film, so I would probably lean towards the weekly dinners that you're doing for teamwork and team building and other things. But if you have the capacity to do both, I would do both. Cody, I just went through a meeting with my AD and my principal yesterday. In our return, we have a tentative phase 1 return to play somewhere around June 15th. And the guidelines that I got under the return to play protocol in phase 1 for June 15th were so obnoxiously crazy that I almost don't want to go back. I almost might wait till July 1st or somewhere else, because the things that me and my staff would have to do to condition our kids with no weight room, no locker room, no footballs, the things that we would have to do to go through that is almost not worth it. And I know why we have to do them, and I don't argue with why we have to do them, but from my standpoint, if we're only going to be allowed to condition with no football, no locker room, no weight room, and we have to jump through 50 hoops to do that, I don't know if I'm willing to do that. I might just wait till we can go back full tilt. Also, we're talking about no sweat Wednesdays. Do you lean on Mondays, or how do you work your weeks in terms of? We were always a light Monday type team, and then Tuesday, Wednesdays were heavy, and then Thursdays were walkthrough slash lighter days. But I've heard the no sweat Wednesday deal, and I now know that that a lot of teams are going heavy Tuesdays only, and then they're going walkthrough, rehab, prehab, game plan Mondays, heavy competition Tuesdays, no sweat Wednesdays, walkthrough Thursdays. So, I think we're getting to a point in time where a lot of people are backing off of the toughness slash mental grind that we used to put people through and kids through. And I think there's teams that are only going live one day a week. So, Ben, I know a lot of teams that do that and do no sweat Wednesdays. And I think depending on the age group and the leadership of your team, I think you can get away with doing that, in my opinion. I can tell you this, Ben, in my 22nd year now as a head coach, approaching 48 years old, working smarter, not harder is what it's all about. I spent the early part of my career working 7 days a week, 90 hours a week, grinding my ass off just because I thought that's what you had to do as a football coach. And you get older, you have a family, you have kids, and other things go on, and you start realizing, football is a very, sports in general and athletics in general are a weird deal, but football is a weird deal in general because based on the talent of your team and the talent of the teams that you play, you can put in 90 hours a week or 50 hours a week, and a lot of times it's not going to make much difference. The reason you put in 90 hours a week is because as coaches, that's all we ever knew. And if we didn't do that, we felt like we were selling our kids and our program short. But I've come to find over the years that in high school football, that talent is so vast most of the time. The talent is so different that there's a lot of weeks that if I put in 30 hours and spent time with my family, I'd get the same result as if I put in 90 hours. But I put in 90 hours because it's all I knew how to do. It's how I was raised. It's how I was taught. And if I didn't do that, I felt like I was doing a disservice. So, you got to live with yourself. You got to understand how you function and what makes it okay for you. And, there's weeks that if you put in 50 hours and spend more time with your family, that's going to be the same result. If you can live with that, then that's probably a pretty good deal. If you can't live with that, then you put in
90 hours and you grind like we used to grind. But I'm getting a little bit older now and further along in my career. And, I'm finally coming to the realization in high school that the talent gap is so diverse in a lot of the weeks that we play that, why am I spending 90 hours a week and killing myself and maybe some assistant coaches when we could be spending our time doing other things, because it's really not going to matter. But at the same time, I grew up like all of y'all did, depending on how old you are, that this is the way you work and you don't know any other way to work, and you do it because it's what you need to do. And for me, it's one of those deals where, as long as if I can put in 50 hours and give everything I have to the kids and feel like I gave my best to the kids, as opposed to 90 hours, then I'm fine. If 50 hours feels like I cut the kids short, then I'm going to do 80 or 90 like I always have. So if you can go to bed at night knowing that you gave your kids everything you had, regardless of the amount of time spent, based on the opponent that you're playing. Like for me in Florida where I'm at, there's weeks where I play 10 Division I kids, and it don't matter if I spend 100 hours or 5 hours during the week. The result is going to be what the result is, because they have 10 Division I players and I have one or none or whatever it is. So, the weird thing about, or the strange thing about coaching, or the best thing about coaching, it might be a good, a bad, a different, I don't know. You have to be comfortable with yourself. And if you feel like you've done enough for your kids and you can live with it, then you move on, And if you don't feel like you've done enough for your kids, then you grind the 90 hours or whatever it may be. But I learned the hard way that used to be something that I thought we had to do, because that's the only way we ever knew as an older 48-year-old coach that grew up in the 80s and 90s. That's all we knew. And you had to do it that way because that's all you were ever taught and that's all you ever learned. But nowadays, I just think it's one of those things. And I talk to my old friends in New York and guys that are in their 50s and 60s and that I still relate to. And it's like, listen, that grind that we all thought about, meeting just to have meetings, and we feel like we got to meet to get things done. Are we really getting things done certain weeks where we know we're going to win by 30 or lose by 30? I just don't. I don't know in high school if we have to do that as a roundabout point. Are you being told the boys need to wear? We don't know, Michael, yet. We've seen the boys don't need to wear masks in the phase 1 return to play that I've seen. We don't need to wear masks with the boys, but we can only have about 20 kids in the same area. If we cannot use the weight room, we cannot use the locker room. So in phase 1, all we can do is condition. If those 20 kids show up and we have coaches there, the coaches that are with those 20 kids have to stay with them the whole time. If we split them up into 10 and 10 and 1 or 2 coaches with each group, we can't rotate the groups to different coaches. The 10 kids that are with 2 coaches need to stay with those 2 coaches the whole time. I've been told that I have a list of questions that I have to ask. Have you had a fever? Does anybody have a fever or had a fever? Have you traveled? Have you, there's a list of questions that I have to ask every day that the kids have to answer. I've been told that I have to document, and we would document attendance anyways, but I have to document who's there every day and what days they are there and not there. And in my meeting with my AD on Thursday, I kind of just said to him, I said, you know what? Phase 1 right now, I don't know if it's even worth it to return. I might wait till phase 2, and I might use phase 1 to bring kids in and make sure that they have physicals and that they're cleared in our online athletic clearance. And I might wait till phase 2 to start doing any conditioning or work. We can't have a football. When we get into phase 2, they're telling us that if you have a football and 3 kids touch that football, they're the only 3 that can. And when they're done, you got to disinfect that football, and another football has to come out for another group. And as much as I want to get back, and as much as I'm ready to get back, and as much as my kids in the state of Florida are ready to get back, I don't know how much that week or 2 of getting back is worth it in phase 1. If that's all the things we have to do in phase 1 to not get in the weight room and not get in the locker room and not touch a football and just do some conditioning and agility drills, I don't know if I really want to go back that. I might I might sacrifice a week or two to just do paperwork and online clearance with physicals and not go till July 1st and hope that when we do go, we can go a little bit harder or better, however you want to term. I don't want to say harder, better. I mean, shoot. I mean, we got so many things to worry about outside of football that the return to football, if we get to return at all, we're fortunate. And with all the other things that are going on in the world right now with, the racial injustice and police brutality and all the other things that are going on, if we got back to football, it would be so awesome. But at the same time, if my job is going to be that hard just to get 20 kids to work out, I may want to wait a week or two. And I'd love to hear your opinion on it from the states that you're in and your return to protocol. And if you're a coach or a head coach or an assistant coach, what your program is doing. Because, honestly, guys, I feel like when it comes to offense and defense and special teams and, read schemes and quarters and other things, I feel like I can help you and educate you. And I feel like I'm somewhat of an expert on some things. I can tell you right now, guys, your opinion on what we are going to do moving forward is every bit as valuable as my opinion, because I have no training, I have no clinic, I have no book, I have no videos. I don't know what to do. I have no idea what to do. And you guys are in the same boat, so you can probably help me as much as I can help you when it comes to returning to play and what we're doing. And, it's just so crazy that everything that's gone on the last 2 months, and then we get into this is probably not the right platform, but I know that we have multiple ethnicities and races and people on this chat right now, and we're all football coaches and we're all probably former athletes that can equate a lot of things together. But it's just amazing that in the last couple of days, the coronavirus and what we were dealing with went away, and the news focus went 180 degrees in a different direction. And now it just brings it just brings everything back. Everything that we cherish as football coaches and athletes, there couldn't be a better time for us to appreciate how good we really have it. And I know the coronavirus and the return to play is crazy, but when you look at everything else that's going on in the world, to be able to coach football and play football and be in an environment where we don't see color, we don't see ethnicity, we don't see religion, we just see players and skill level, and we're trying to put the best 11 on the field. I want to get back to that as soon as possible, because I'd like to block out all the other stuff that I can't control, but coronavirus won't let us do that, and I think, in our world that we live in as coaches and athletes, I think we need to get back to sports so fucking bad, excuse my French, just because sports and locker rooms and team have always been the epitome of somewhat of equality, where we all are on the same fucking page to get towards a common goal. And we need sports so bad right now, and we need to be playing them so bad, because the more we don't play them, the more we're just going to chastise and criticize all of our heroes for what they say or how they respond to what's going on right now. And it's just so horrific to go through it and to deal with it, because you can't make a statement right now that's not going to be judged 9,000 different ways. And, like I said, I appreciate my audience so much, and I know how diverse my audience is, and I know how diverse the football population is. And I know that we all on this YouTube live right now, we see one vision of football and everything else, but it's just hard not to think about those other things and think about what's going on. And, to look at the comments that have been made and to judge them. And it's just crazy to me. It's just weird. It's strange. I grew up in New York in a place where I saw a lot of crazy shit in my life. I've never seen the last 2 months of my life at 47 years old. I've never seen anything like this shit. Nothing's prepared me for this. Growing up in New York didn't prepare me for any of this. Inner city, Manhattan, Long Island. This is uncharted for every one of us. We're all being guided accordingly. Every one of us can help each other out because I don't have a damn plan. I don't have an idea. I don't know what to tell anybody. But the great thing about a YouTube site and a YouTube live site is you guys follow my site and I get on here and we all talk about things because we have a common interest. We have a common goal and we want to get better at what we're doing. I agree with you, Michael Moore, 100%. Michael, you're in Georgia, I think. I know you won one of. I'm pretty sure you're in Savannah. You won one of our Twitter questions of the day. If I have my memory is still okay. So in the southeast where we are, the heat illness and that stuff is so huge that we have got to consider how hard and long we can train our players just to get ready to play, let alone forget about our scheme. Guys, this channel and this YouTube and Play Fast Football and Coach Mac, it's all about schemes, and I get it. But when we step back and say we're head coaches and we are in charge of the lives of 16, 17, 18-year-olds in the Southeast where me and Coach Moore happen to be, we've got to get these kids acclimated because guess what? In the last 2 months, guys, during coronavirus, guess what everybody's done? They've sat down and played video games in the air conditioning because you couldn't go out. You couldn't go, excuse me, you couldn't go anywhere. You couldn't do anything. So all of our kids that we haven't been able to be in contact with to work out in our gym classes and to work out in our spring football, these kids have been sitting around doing nothing like we used to do 20, 30 years ago, maybe, and they're back accustomed to air conditioning and apartment home living. And so we're going to have to condition these kids to get back to be ready to be outside in 95-degree heat. So, your offense and your defense takes a damn back seat to everything else that we need to do to keep these kids healthy. So it's crazy. But while I went on that 30-minute rant and all of you are still here, God bless you for listening to it and dealing with it. What I want to talk about tonight, because one of my followers, subscribers talked about practice plans, and I wanted to kind of talk about that tonight and not practice plans from how we used to do everything when everything was normal. I don't want to talk about what we're going to do moving forward because I will be 100% transparent with you guys. I don't know what the hell I'm going to do moving forward. I don't know how my practice plans and my things are going to change because I've never done it and I have nobody to tell me how to do it that's done it. I've never gone to a clinic about it. I've never heard a talk about it. So I want to talk about before all these things shook out, practice plans, how to go about practice plans, how different they are from school to school based on coaching staff, number of coaches. Do you coach varsity and JV? Are your teams separate? How much help do you have? How much do your kids play both ways? I think the thing that happens with practice plans is we all go to clinics and we all listen to people speak and we all listen to college guys. And there is probably, a pretty which part? That's my daughter. Macy McPherson is my daughter that's saying, wow, nasty. Is the headset nasty? Is the volume nasty? Or you're just mad I won't get you that other cat that we need? But yes, guys, that's my daughter. So when we're looking at practice plans, we all know what Nick Saban and Dabo Sweeney and the big timers do, and we go to clinics and we listen to people talk about Riley. I'm I'm not responding anymore if it's Riley. And we get an idea of what practice plans are and what they should be. And the bottom line, guys, is most of our staffs at our high schools with what we can't follow those practice plans. We can't do the things that those guys do. So we need to come up with our own ideas, and those ideas need to be based on facilities and staff, how many workers you have, how many kids you have. In college, they don't worry about guys that are playing both ways. Well, there's a lot of you out there, and myself included, that if you've got 6 or 8 starters that go both ways, your practice plan is not going to look like Nick Saban's. Your practice plan is not going to look like anybody else's. And the bottom line is, with practice plans, is it's got to be effective, and it's got to be effective for you. So you've got to be able to take information from other people and use it, but at the same time, you've got to mold it to what is the best for you, and how you can get the most out of your practices. And it's not the same for all of us. So it's not like blocking power or counter. It's not like rules that say, hey, we're going to be down gap to backside back, or the puller's got the front side back, or we kick the edge. When you're talking about a practice plan, it's not the same. If you've got 1,500 kids and somebody else has 2,500 kids in their school, it's not the same. If you've got 8 coaches and someone else has 15 coaches, it's not the same. If you've got, yes, you're out eating right now, and I'm not, because I'm on YouTube Live. I get it. Thank you very much. Is it, guys, give your opinion. If I blocked my daughter or my daughter's friends from this conversation, is that a bad thing? Is that, would that be wrong for me to block my own family? But you've got to understand that your practice plans are based on the amount of kids you have, the amount of coaches you have, the school that you're at. Like for us at the school that I'm at, we don't watch a lot of film, simply because the kids that I have really can't handle that. And I used to be at a school where we used to watch 35 to 45 minutes of film with special teams meetings before every practice. And what I learned the hard way was, just because I did it that way and that's how I know how to do it, when I went to other schools, if we couldn't handle it, that I don't do it that way because it's how I was taught or how I know. I have to adjust my practice plans and my meetings and what I do to the clientele and the people that I have and the coaching staff that I have. So when it comes to practice plans, it's such an interesting thing, because we all see these beautiful, and nowadays it's great with Google, and you could share your practice plans, and other coaches can insert their indie and their time, and it's so great with technology nowadays. But at the end of the day, the bottom line is, there is no set regimen for any school or anybody to say that, hey, I've got to practice this way. This is my plan. I've got to insert this Excel spreadsheet into my world because that's my plan. Because it just, I've been a head coach at 3 different high schools in Florida, 3 remotely kind of different high schools in 3 different atmospheres in a way. And I've changed everywhere I've ever been. My staffs are different. The amount of people I have are different. And my kids are different. And I've changed everywhere I've gone, because to say that the way I do things and the way I practice and the way I meet and the way I watch film is plug and play everywhere I go is just doing a disservice to my program and my kids. So, as a coach, a head coach, an offense coordinator, defense coordinator, whoever you may be out there watching on YouTube Live, you have to understand your setting and understand what works in your setting. And, it's Bradley, to your point, your practice plan should always be a living document. It's a living, breathing document that, yes, you need to have one. And I don't think you go out on the field and tell your coaches to just wing it. You need a plan, and you need a script, and you need plays that are scripted during inside and skeleton and team. But that plan and that script is always a living, working document, because you have no idea. I currently, where I am, I have an assistant coach that works with me that is a Jacksonville police officer. And at any given time, whether it be security for the vice president or handling riots and looting and things that are going on like they are right now, at any given time, I realize that that guy may say, Coach, I can't get there. I'm sorry. So your practice plan needs to be a living, breathing, working document because, it's not a perfect world. I have outside coach. I have adjunct coaches from off campus that come and they don't live in our world of 8 to 2 and teach and yada, yada, yada. And I love them to death, and God bless that I have them, and they're excellent people and excellent coaches, but they have other things in their lives that from time to time say that they can't be there. And so for us, our practice plan and what we do needs to be a living, breathing document that can change at any minute. You do need to have a plan, though. You can't, as a head coach, if I go out there and say, hey, guys, what do you want to do today? And wing it, no, that's terrible. I get it. But that practice plan needs to be a living, breathing document that can change. Jack, we don't do two-a-days, and I'll tell you why. In our normal setting before coronavirus and everything that was going on in the world right now, we have spring football for 19 days and a game. And then about 2 weeks after that, after graduation is over, we start right back in the weight room, and we have about 7 to 8 weeks in the weight room with conditioning and install and 7-on-7 and things that we can do. My opinion as a head coach with the way we have things set up in Florida is if we do our job the right way, when we get to camp, two-a-days was in the old days. And I know you're younger, Jack. I know you're probably still in high school as a current player because you've been on my site 1,000 times, and I appreciate you to death. But as a 48-year-old, 47, turning 48-year-old man that played football my entire life, two-a-days used to be about conditioning. It used to be about chasing away kids that really weren't all about football. It used to be about building mental toughness. And it used to be about maybe getting some things installed that you needed to get installed. And in Florida, where I am, with spring football and summer and everything else we have, I'm old school with a lot of things I do, but at the same time, I don't think we need two-a-days. If we do our job in the spring and we do our job in the summer, we should have everything installed, and our kids should be conditioned enough that when the summer comes, we don't have to do the old-fashioned two-a-days. We don't have to sleep on cots in the gym. We don't have – now, I will say this, as far as a camp, as far as a going away for team chemistry, team bonding, I still am old school enough that I believe in that. If you could go away to a camp or go away, and I've taken teams to camp several times. But as far as two-a-days at your own high school or your own facility, I just don't believe in it where I'm at. With spring football and summer and everything we do, if I do my job the right way, I don't need to do that. And with all my coaches that I have, with guys that are adjunct and other things, the less two-a-days I need to do, the more time those guys can have with family and other things before we hit the season. Because once we hit the season, it's 6-7 days a week. There is no ifs, ands, or buts about it. So the more I can save my coaching staff and my players in July and August, and I think the better we are. That's just me. Matthias, thank you from Germany. Thank you for joining us. I'm an 80s metal guy, big Scorpions fan, huge Halloween fan. So if you know anything about hard rock, heavy metal music, I appreciate you joining me from Germany because I have the utmost respect for Germany. And as a golfer, I love Bernhard Langer and Martin Keimer. And so hats off to you, Matthias. I hope you're safe. I hope everything where you are is okay because in our world in the United States, as great as everybody thinks it is right now, it's a shit show. It's crazy, and we'll be okay. We've gone through it before. We'll go through it again, and we'll be okay eventually. This too shall pass, but I hope your country's doing better than we are because it's disgusting. Ben, to answer your question, I think you can do that with your practice on, as far as the defense, I think you can do tackling Mondays, takeaway Tuesdays, competition Wednesdays. I think you can do it however you want. I think you can focus those things at different times and in different aspects. In my opinion, I think tackling needs to be emphasized every day because it's always going to be the hardest skill to teach because it takes not only technique and fundamentals, but it takes a will and a desire and a mental fortitude. So I think tackling needs to be done every day. Takeaways, obviously, I think the more you practice takeaways, the better you get. But I think your defensive schemes also need to build towards takeaways. If you're going to play more man defense, then you better get ready to have less takeaways because guys that are playing man don't get to see the ball come from the quarterback's hand as much. So you can cause fumbles with violent tackling and strips and rips and other things. But as far as interceptions, the more man you play, I think the less interceptions you're going to get. So I think your schemes kind of affect those things too. So I see nothing wrong, Ben, with practicing tackling Mondays, takeaway Tuesdays, toughness Wednesdays. I think that's fine. What about splitting the team in two, one offensive group and one defensive group, and then switch halfway? Well, here's the way we do things, Christian, to be honest with you. Our kids play both ways most of the time, and we'll have a practice that is 75% offense, and then we'll switch it, and the last 25% will be defense, and the next day we'll turn around, and 75% will be defense, and then 25% will be offense. So we do kind of do that in a way. Yeah, Jack, that is an old school type philosophy, and that's the way things used to be done for a long time. 2 or 3 a days with breaks in between and serve people lunch and kids don't go home. And there's a lot to be said about that. There's a lot to be said about how effective it is. But at the same time, I don't think it's necessary. Guys, give me 1 second. I will be back. I promise. Please don't leave. So sorry, guys, but I'm back. That's the beauty of being live. It is what it is. Let me get. Yeah, Matthias, God bless you. If everything's good in Germany, we just, we go through some shit here, and we got to get through it. We got to work through it, and we got to hope to make a better, a better environment for everybody to live. And it's we're always the image and the picture of everything and equality and people coming here from other countries that don't have opportunities and getting their opportunities here, but yet we don't take care of our own people. So we'll get through this. We'll be better, and hopefully we can educate everybody and get get the world and the United States to a better place. But I'm 47, going on 48 years old, and I'm from New York, and it's shit we've dealt with for 48 years, and it's embarrassing, it's disgusting, but at the same time, a lot of it is what makes our country the place it is, and why so many people want to come here. So, you deal with the good with the bad. But I hope you're good, Matthias. I have the utmost respect for Germany, and God bless y'all. I hope you're safe. Yeah, downtime, Michael Moore, Coach Moore. God, downtime as a head coach. How do we fix it? How do we change it? Downtime and the reps in our practice and how we deal with our JV, and they're not good enough to be a scout team for our varsity, but yet at the same time, we need to do something because they're not getting good reps with each other. And then our varsity guys standing around is the grab ass downtime shit that we deal with as high school coaches, excuse my French, that college guys really don't deal about. It's just that's the part that we need to work on as coaches to kind of figure out, hey, what do you do? How do I get better at doing this? Because I only have 6 coaches and they're coaching JV and varsity, and we're doing offense, and these kids are standing around, and the ones that stand around playing grab ass screw the whole practice up. I mean, we all go through the same thing. We all deal with the same stuff. And, it just drives you nuts as a coach, because that should be the least amount of your concerns, but it's the biggest concern. Oh, cheers from Mexico, Eduardo. Love you. I've been to Mexico twice. I've been to Cancun once, Cabo San Lucas once, vacation destinations when I was a young man, college kid, and Mexico was good to me. And I appreciate you and Matthias. And, the fact that you can get as crazy as the world is right now, and as much of the shit that we're going through right now, the fact that I can jump on YouTube Live and there's somebody from Germany and Mexico here listening to my opinion about football is so mind-numbing and so humbling to me. I appreciate it so much, and it blows my mind that something that I do can be witnessed by Germany and Mexico and other and Brazil. God bless Quiroga. You're a regular, Quiroga, and I'm sorry I butcher your name every time, but the fact that there's so many people from different places in the world, forget about the United States, the world, tune in. I am so thankful, and God bless y'all, and for everything you do. And at the same time, though, I just, I'm very compassionate about what we're all going through in our countries. And obviously the United States is a shit show right now, and everybody knows it. And, it's one of those times where you may be better off being in Brazil or Germany or Mexico than we are right now. But in the end, we'll get back. We'll be better. We'll all get back to what we know and what we love. And, but hopefully we all learn from this. So Gus Malzahn, his offensive practice to hurry up. Is that how you practice it too? Yeah, I will tell you why, Christian. Here's the deal. All right. So when you become a hurry up tempo team, you have to practice that style and that manner of play all the time. You can't do that some of the time. You can't do it every once in a while. So when you become that type of team, you have to practice that way. So what ends up happening is you have to practice your tempo, your signals, your communication. When you have a team session or an inside session or whatever it is, you don't get the group in a huddle and tell them to play and let them go to the ball, because that's not how you're going to play. It's not how you're going to operate. So everything you do, from a skeleton, 7-on-7, 9-on-7, inside run, however you want to term it, everything you do that has plays involved needs to be signaled, called, sent in the way it's going to be sent in. And then the tempo needs to be practiced and rep, because you can't get kids to understand how to get to the ball, get a formation, line up in a formation, get a play call. You can't get them to do that unless you do it every single day. So what ends up happening is, because that's the way you practice all the time, every day, what you find out that I found out 12, 14 years ago is you start to get 6 to 8 more reps in every period. You start to get more if you teach your coaches how to practice that way. Because here's the deal with that. When you're doing that, you don't stop the practice to go through and fix something unless it is absolutely the utmost important thing. You need to teach your coaches how to coach on the fly, because when we run a play and we don't block it right, or we don't run the right routes, the most important thing for the tempo of what we're doing is we need to get the next formation and the next play, and we need to train our kids how to get the next formation and the next play, So that we have to train our coaches. I need, like, especially for the offensive line guys that are so vehement about the rules and how we block things and the techniques, and that's why they're the best coaches on staff, and they're everything to what you do. But when you're a tempo team, you've got to grab that O-line guy and say, listen, here's what I need you to understand. If we run power and we don't block it right, we are not stopping. You better scream at those offensive linemen about the double teams, the angles, the puller, the fullback kick out, whatever you want to do. You better be able to explain that in 10 to 12 seconds because we're going to the next play. Now, with that being said, how do you fix stuff like that? Huddle, film, practices. Let that O-line coach then go afterwards, the next day, before, whatever, at home with notes and groups. I'm not saying you don't fix it. What I'm saying is you don't stop to fix it, because as soon as you stop old school 20, 30 years ago and walk everybody through what they need to do, you've lost the tempo, you've lost the pace, you've lost everything you're doing, and your kids will never play at the right pace because you haven't done it all the time. If you want your kids to play at that pace and that tempo, you better let them do it, and you better practice it all the time. So that's a big issue. When our staff is correct, Ben, and I have the right people, yes, we film every practice, and you, at least your working days, your Tuesday, Wednesdays, whatever your working days are, or whatever your team day, you better film everything, or else you're behind the eight ball. Because the way the game is now, we don't stop and practice. We practice at a certain tempo. We try to get as many reps as possible. And the other thing is, you can't see everything as a coach. As I coach both sides of the ball. I've done it forever. I feel like I'm pretty good with what I'm looking at. I feel like I can coach every position on the field. I can't see all 22 players every time we run a play. I have to have film. I have to be able to go back and look at it because, I trust my assistants to coach and make adjustments. But for me in general, I got to go back and look at something. And there's a lot of times I go back at a practice and I look at something and I go, holy crap, that's what the hell we did. I didn't see that live. So if you have the equipment, the facilities, and the people to do it, you must film every practice. Jack, you want the honest answer? When you're running that type of offense, you don't check. We don't check. I call my play before the defense even lines up, and the offense that I run, we have to have enough things in there built in to give the quarterback something else to do with the ball. We don't check. If we're going to play at that tempo, and any of the schools in college that play at that tempo, when you're playing at that tempo, Jack, you don't check. You run plays, and if first down is a bad play, then you make a 2nd and 12 call. The best teams that play at that tempo, going back to Chip Kelly in Oregon and Baylor and everybody, to play at that tempo, you don't check. Now you have means and mannerisms in your offense to check, but when you do that, you're not playing at that tempo. When you play at that gung-ho 100-mile-an-hour full balls to the wall tempo, you don't check. Now, as a tempo person that studied it inside and out for the last 10 years of my life, here's what makes tempo effective. You better play at different tempos, because if you go balls to the wall 100 miles an hour fast all the time, defenses will practice and figure that out. You got to be able to play at that tempo and other tempos, so you need to change tempos, Jack. But to answer your question, if you play and you want to play fast at that tempo, you do not check. They knock it out with a player after practice. Yeah, you got to, Coach Klee. You don't have a choice, because as a head coach, we are not stopping. And if you stop and slow my practices down, you're going to catch hell. And it's my job to teach you how to do it and what to do it. We can't play at that tempo unless we practice at that tempo. We can't expect our kids to execute things that we've never taught them. So we've got to move at that pace all the time. So you've got to learn how to coach around that pace. So, it's just something that you do, you learn, you improvise, you adjust, and you got to, if you're going to play that way, you better practice that way. Yes, Gus. Yeah, Jack. Gus does a check with me deal, but Gus also has other deals when they're playing at the fastest pace possible that they don't check. And it's different for everybody. Sometimes it's you do it when you're on your hash mark towards your bench, and sometimes you do it after a first down or after a play of 15 or 20 yards or more. I'm not saying how you have to do it. I'm just saying that when Gus is not a Chip Kelly hurry up 95 snaps a game guy, but when Gus does go that route during the game, I guarantee you he doesn't check. When he's in that mannerism of operation, he may not be in it all the time. That may not be who he is, but when he's in it, I guarantee you he does not check. His fire alarms are set plays that no matter what happens, they're going to come out and they're going to run this sugar huddle and they're going to be on balance and they're going to motion and they're going to run quarterback power off a jet sweep or whatever it is they do. I guarantee you 100% from studying it, learning it, hearing them talk about it, and watching it on film. When they're in that mode, they are not checking. Now, other modes they will check. I agree with you. Other modes they will be check with me. I agree with you. The Oregons and the Chip Kellys, and now I don't even know who it is. It used to be Baylor and Art Briles. I mean, last year I'd have to study who ran the most snaps per game. SMU and Chad Morris for a little bit, Tulsa for a little bit, but I don't know who ran the most snaps last year. I don't know who played the fastest. I didn't study that. But I guarantee you the teams that ran the most snaps a game and played the fastest, I guarantee you 80 to 90% of the time there were no checks because checks slow you down. And check with me at the line of scrimmage might put you in a better play, and I don't argue that or disagree with that, but it slows you down. So if you're trying to play fast at another tempo, you don't check. By the age of 14 is allowed to play tackle football. There are age groups 14 to 16, 17 to 19. Matthias, here's what I can tell you. Like anything else in life, the later you pick it up, the harder it's going to be. The later you have to learn how to do it, the harder it's going to be. If they're not doing it from 8 to 10 to 10 to 12, it's going to be harder. So, I would say that when you look at things internationally, I would say that if our kids are better at playing football because we teach them at 8 and 9 years old than you do with your kids at 14, I'll bet you there's a lot of things in Germany that your kids do earlier than we do that you're probably better at. So, it's like any other athletic event. The earlier you can start teaching it and teach the techniques and the fundamentals and the skill-specific things, the better they're going to be. So, there's certain things in certain sports. If you go back to the Olympics and you look at Russia and gymnastics and their girls were doing, their men and their women were doing certain things at earlier ages than ours were in the United States, and we had to catch up. And, in the Olympics, they had 13-year-olds that were doing X amount of things. It's all the same. It's all the earlier that we indoctrinate our kids to football and tackle football and keep them safe, but yet teach them skills and fundamentals. If you're teaching a kid how to play at 14 and I'm teaching a kid how to play at 9, I would damn sure hope that my kid at 9 that's learning how to play is better off than your kid at 14. If safety-wise your kid's better off, I get that 100%. But if you're talking about skills, techniques, fundamentals, and knowledge, if I can teach my kid at 9 and you teach your kid at 14, if I'm not better than you are, then damn, I'm not very good at what I do if I have 5 years advance notice. So if that's how they do it, Matthias, you don't have a choice. You do it the way they do it in your country and where you are, and it is what it is. But if you're asking me, we have a benefit. If I can start a kid at 9 and you start him at 14, well, hell, I got a way bigger advantage than you do. Jack, interesting conversation, interesting topic. I think I've told you this before, but if I haven't told you this, I'm an Alabama fan. So Gus has got the best of us several times. He's got about as good of a record against Saban as anybody out there. So I have the utmost respect for Gus Malzahn as a football coach and as an Alabama fan. If you want to get into schematically why they struggle, their passing game is not where it needs to be to compete for national championships year in and year out. Talent, they're good enough, but they're not. They got to take their recruiting to the next level. And the knock on Gus Malzahn is going to be passing game. They don't do a lot in the passing game. Their passing game is built off their run game, and it's fire alarms and play action passes and shots down the field. They're not consistent enough in a college Division I SEC national championship offense the way they throw the ball. And if you want the best example, look at LSU and where they went with Joe Burrow last year, and Joe Brady is now with the Carolina Panthers, and his name was the hottest thing in the world because he took a school and a team and an offense that was always known as inept for the talent level that they had, and they all of a sudden produced amazing results on offense and amazing results throwing the football, and Joe Brady took himself from a great job to a even better job making more money in 1 year. So that's the way I would relate it. That's how I would look at it. He needs to throw the ball better. They need to do better throwing the ball, and when they get better throwing the ball and they can matriculate down the field with a quarterback that is able to do those things, then Auburn's going to be hell to deal with. Until that point, they'll be mediocre like they've always been. Yeah, the kid will be better, Matthias. Just it better, as much as I do. I'm sure there's a lot of things in Germany that kids get indoctrinated to when they're 8 or 9 years old, and football happens to not be one of them. But I know enough about soccer to know that Bayern Munich is one of the better soccer teams in the what the hell is it? The damn. Obviously, Germany's good in the World Cup, but then when they have when Italy and Spain and all the leagues get together to play soccer, I know Bayern Munich is always one of the damn toughest outs in that tournament, and that's because those kids probably grow up playing soccer from the time they can breathe. And football, for whatever reason, American football is not as big as a thing, and there's probably a safety concern, and they don't let them play American football till later. And that's why their soccer kids are better off, because they give them skills to do when there's 4, 5, 3. They're dribbling and doing things with a soccer ball because it's expected. It's okay. It's what it is. And American football's different. So, you deal with it, Matthias, every day. I know you go through it, but I'm just giving you my opinion of why it is the way it is. I wouldn't say destroyed everyone, but yeah, they were pretty damn good. They, at the end of the day, yeah, Champions League. Thank you, Matthias. Thank you so much. I can't believe I couldn't think of that. But Jack, at the end of the day, they had a quarterback that was taken first overall, and 2 or 3 receivers that were taken, and a running back that was taken, and linemen that were taken. Yeah, they've always had talent like that, but at the end of the day, they put together a scheme that was very good and very effective, but they had guys. They had dudes. They had Joe Burrow, and he goes first, and then the receivers go in the first round, and the running back goes, and linemen go in the first 3 rounds. So, yeah, I think the scheme has a lot to do with it. I think they played a certain style of football for the longest time, and they couldn't beat Alabama because they couldn't out-recruit Alabama playing the same style of football, and they put something together that this year that was phenomenal. So hats off to them. It pains me as an Alabama fan to say hats off to LSU, but shit, real recognize real. You respect what you respect, and they put together an amazing season, and Joe Brady deserves what he gets, and hopefully his career moves forward. And I want to see him do well because I don't wish bad on anybody. But hell, if he doesn't do well, he's going to make millions of dollars anyways. He's set almost for life. So whatever happens with Joe Brady happens. Yeah, water's another deal, Michael. Coach Moore, you used to have water breaks, and and design the water breaks in your practice so that you wouldn't get sued, and make sure your practice plan had those water breaks. But now we live in a world where the way we practice and the tempo and the things that we're doing, we've got to treat water differently. We may not be able to stop and have 5-minute water breaks. We may need water and water bottles on the field. The one thing I will tell you that is disgusting that I've seen done before is when coaches refuse to let kids have water because it's a sign of weakness and you're a pussy. Excuse my French. I grew up in that world. I grew up in that day and age, and that's just stupid. We're beyond that. We're smart enough to know that with enough water bottles and enough managers and people around it, we can give kids water while they're getting a signal, and it doesn't make them soft. But you deal with it, Michael. You're a coach in Savannah. You're a coach in Georgia. It's hot as shit. You're responsible for kids, and you can get sued at any time. So, if giving kids water during practice slows me down a second or two, then damn, I'll slow down a second or two. I am not going to let kids get water to be better, to have practice run a little bit more efficient, or to be a second faster with my offense. If it costs me a second in communication signals to give a kid water in practice, well, then damn, we're going to be a second slower. I'm not going down that road. I'm a father. I have 2 daughters. I'm not going down the road where I put somebody's kid in jeopardy because I think we can practice faster without a water break. I'm not doing it. 3-5-3 defense is a good fit for a team that almost changes the full team year after year. Yes, Eduardo, I agree with you. We're 3-5-3. We're not. I'm sorry. We're 3-3-5. Same scheme, different personnel. We play 3 linebackers, 5 DBs, not 5 linebackers. We're a split field coverage team, so we're different than most 3-5-3 teams. But schematically, if you're asking me if it's better, I think you can fit that personnel. From what I've dealt with in 22 years as a head coach in the state of Florida, I can fit 3-3-5 personnel at every school I've been at every year. I can't fit 4-3 or 4-2 every year. I can't fit 3-4 every year, but 3-3 is about the closest I can come to fit every school that I've been at. Does that make it the best personnel to win depending on where you are? No. If you see teams that are pro-I, 21 personnel that run the ball down your throat, well, damn, 3-3-5 is not the best personnel group. We use it because it fits us the best, it fits my coaches the best, and it's the easiest for me to teach. That's why we use it. I don't sell it to anybody else to say this is the be-all, end-all way to play football. I do it because I think it's the easiest for me to teach. It's the easiest for me to teach my coaching staff, and it's the easiest for me to find the right personnel. And I sell any offense or defense that way on YouTube or Play Fast Football. I never tell you this is the way you have to do it because you live in a different world than I do. We don't have the same coaches, the same scheme, the same players, the same amount of players, the same facilities, the same money. I don't believe in one scheme is the best fit for all. We're 3-3-5 because it fits us, it fits my staff, and I can teach it. That's why we do it. Great point, though. All right, who else is out there? What else we got? Today was supposed to be about practice plans. Anything else you got about practice plans? Anything else you got about offense, defense? Hell, if you want to talk about the world we live in right now, I'll answer you the best I can. I think we are, as coaches, you're welcome, Eduardo. As coaches in the world that we live in the world we grew up in as athletes in a locker room, I think we're as well equipped to deal with what the hell's going on out in the world right now as anybody else because I think we've done it better than everybody for a long time. I think coaches in what we do, I think we've led people way better than politicians. I think we've led people way better than a lot of the other, except for maybe the church. I think we've led people as good as possible. So I think we're equipped to do a job. How do I squeeze film in? Michael, Coach Moore, it changed from school to school. It changed based on the clientele. Like I said, we used to watch film 35 to 45 minutes before every practice. I got to different schools, and my kids couldn't handle that, so we stopped doing it. I think you need to watch film 100%, but I think the kids and the staff that you have and the setting that you have, if you have a setting like Texas or somewhere where you've got 6 different film rooms and it's 10 kids with a coach and the coach knows what he's doing and yada, 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 then I think you do it. If you've got to show film in your weight room because you have nowhere else to go and the quality's not great and the screen's not great and the kids, it's hard to keep a hold of all of them mentally, then I think you change. I think film is school accordingly, staff accordingly, facility accordingly, excuse me, and player accordingly. I'm sorry, not all kids are the same. They don't all learn the same. If you got kids that don't learn that way, well then damn, don't show them just because somebody says you have to show them. I agree, all things considered, if we were all equal with staff, facility, money, kids, learning, how we learn, then yes, you show it because why else wouldn't you? As a coach, you break it down. We pick up tendencies. We do all the things on film because it gives you a mannerism of figuring out how a team is going and how a coach is going to act in pressure situations. So hell yeah, why wouldn't you do it? But I'm just telling you, as a coach that's been doing this a long time, your school, your players, your facility, your film, your manner of showing film, all those things change. And if they're not conducive, then you don't do it. You do it the way that's best for you, Coach Moore. If that's, if that answer makes sense, you have to do it based on you, your staff, and your kids, and your facility. Running a 3-4 read, cover 4 base. What is the best advice? Well, a lot of times 3-4 teams have a lot of adjustments week in and week out to make towards formations and coverages, how you're trying to play your coverages. And, the biggest advice I can give you as a 3-4 team is have a base defense and a base coverage that you use, that you go to, that is your bread and butter, that you teach every day, and get that done first. As a 3-4 team myself, back in the day, we were always a quarter half team, so we were always a field-based quarter half team. We were quarters to the field, and we set our A shade 5 technique, 9 technique under front to the field, and to the boundary we played our reduction, and we played our half field defense. And when teams gave us formation into the boundary, we checked 3 deep. But the reason we did that is we always had a base, we always had a ground zero, we always had a system that we built for every day, and then we made our checks around that. So as a 3-4 cover 4 team, whatever, hopefully cover 4 for you is quarters. If it's not, then if it's an umbrella 4 across secondary deal, I cannot help you. I don't know what that is. I'm a quarters guy, safety run support, corners playing man other than shallow, and safeties flat foot read and run and playing 2 vertical man-to-man and 2 somewhere else. We're going to double and do other things. So I'm a quarters guy. That's always how I've been. I was taught to play quarter half. So I think the biggest thing with defense, I don't care what structure. I don't care if you're 3-4, 3-3, 4-2, 4-3. I don't care what the structure is. You better have a base defense that you teach your kids from day one. And if it's man-to-man, all-out blitz from day one, I think you're going to struggle unless you're better than everybody. I think you need a gap sound, gap responsible, run fit defense that you teach your kids from day one, and then you build other fronts and movements and coverages and blitzes from there. But, day one, you better be teaching base techniques and base fundamentals. I am a big Herm. I'm a big Herm Edwards guy. I think ASU has a chance because of where they recruit and how they recruit. Do I think they'll be competitive next year? I think they're a little bit behind some of the big dogs and the blue bloods in the Pac-12, and when they catch up recruiting-wise, I think they'll compete every year. I think they'll be competitive, but I don't see – if you were to ask me right now if I think ASU is going to win the Pac-12 or compete for a playoff spot, I'm going to tell you no, Jack. That's just my opinion. I build in every day. May South, if you want to know how I do it, we're going to do special teams every day. It's going to be built into our practices every day. Early on in camp, we're going to do special teams drills, and we're going to teach kids how to run down the field and avoid blocks. We're going to teach kids when they have to take on blocks. We're going to teach them once they take on blocks how to disengage from blocks. We're going to teach them how to disengage and how to get off to the return side. We're going to teach them how to avoid blocks to the butt side of the guys trying to block, because when guys on kickoff return drop to block you, the side that their ass is on is the side that they want the returner to go to. So we're always going to avoid butt or ass side. So as me as a head coach, it's a big deal. It's hell. We're going to gear our practices with special teams in mind, and we're going to do a bunch of special teams drills. And if you don't, I think you're cheating your team. Yeah, if it's quarters bending, that's what we do. That's how we play it. So we're quarter, half. That's how we've always done it, and we very rarely play true quarters across the whole deal. We're a quarter, half team, and when teams break up into 10 personnel 2x2, we get out of quarters and play 2 read. We have 3x1 adjustments based off our quarters deal. So that's just who we are. That's what we do. Very limited, Coach Greenfield, 4 or 5 minute blocks. I'm more of a 10-minute block guy. A lot of the things we do are 10-minute blocks. We will have some 5-minute periods that are competition periods, maybe ones versus ones, maybe a third down segment where we do a competition drill where it's 3rd and 1, 3rd and 2, 3rd and 3, 3rd and 4, 3rd and 5, and we do ones offense versus defense, best versus best, and we compete to say that the winner of that drill is going to watch the loser do extra conditioning. So we have some 5-minute periods in there, but to be honest with you, Coach Greenfield, if you're asking me how I do things, I am a 10-minute block guy. That's me. Ben, that's our number one adjustment in quarters. When we're playing base defense out of quarters and we get 3x1, our base adjustment is man on 1, 2 read on 2 and 3. And then we make the adjustment with our Mike linebacker being a hook 3, push 4 player, whatever terminology you want to use. But that's our number one. For me in quarters, that's our number one check because it allows our backside to still be 3 for 2 or 2 for 1 on the backside, because we don't need a backside safety to come over and play 3 vertical. But I've told people time and time again, I'll say it again, if that's how you want to play defense, if you're a 3-4 team that's playing with an outside linebacker and that's your adjustment, I think you're up Schitt's Creek, and I think you're in trouble because your outside backer has to play 2 vertical if 3 goes vertical. And if that kid's an actual outside linebacker, if he's an outside backer and he's a Sam backer and he's everything you say he is as a Sam backer, he shouldn't be able to cover a number 2 vertical. And if he can cover a number 2 vertical like we do because we're a 3 safety team, he's not a Sam backer, and he's probably not as good on a tight end, being physical versus a tight end in a run game, because that's not what he's made to be. So if you're a true 3-4 team with a Sam backer that's a true Sam backer, that wouldn't be my first coverage adjustment. The only reason it's my first 3x1 adjustment is because we're 4-2-5, 3-3-5 with 5 DBs, 3 secondary players on the field. So I'm good with going to that because I have a safety that if 2 goes vertical, he should be able to play 2 vertical. But I give up some things versus 21 personnel that you as a 3-4 team would be better defending, because that Sam linebacker is more inclined to do that. So that's the only thing I would tell you. I think it can be, Jack, based on where you go. I think it can be based on the kids you have and the players you have. I think getting away for 3 or 4 days can be very beneficial, and I think it can be a lot of fun. But I've also been around programs and teams where it was absolute misery. So, it goes it goes both ways with that. It's been fun and it's been great and it's been miserable. So I think that has to do with the staff, the players, and where you go. To be honest with you. The reason we do that, Ben, to be honest with you, re, the reason we do that is because we play three safeties, and we do that so that we're sound on the backside of single receivers. We always have 3 for 2 or 2 for 1. So philosophically, going into any new job, that's how I would do it until I got there and thought that we couldn't do it. But that's just me. That's just how I teach defense. It's the personnel that we use, and it's how I teach quarters. So that's always our first 3-by-1 adjustment, just because of the personnel we use and how I teach quarters defense. But as a new guy going in, if you got there, Ben, and you didn't have the kids to do that, or you didn't feel like you could do that, then hell, I'd have a different 3-by-1 adjustment. So that's just our 3-by-1 adjustment because of how we do it, the personnel we use, and how I teach our kids to do things. But if I got fired this year and went somewhere next year as a defensive coordinator, and my goal would be that would be our personnel and that would be my number one check. But if you don't have those kids, Ben, then by all means do something else. I mean, that you're in control of that as a defensive coordinator. If you don't have the kids to do something a certain way, don't do it that way because it's the way you think or it's all you know. If the kids struggle, find something that the kids do better. That's what coaching is all about. If you want to talk about putting kids in the best position, and we eliminate talking about building human beings and building fathers and members of society. If you just want to talk about putting kids in the best position as a coach, then it's all talent based and skill based. And if they can't do something, then you do something else. That's our job. Our job is not to say, I'm an expert at this coverage and damn, you're going to play this coverage. I don't care who you are. If they can't play it, then that makes you a dumbass coach. You're the adult. You're the one that should have more knowledge. If they can't play your shit, then you change your shit. That's as easy as I can put it. XX, I haven't exactly said what our structure is, but I will now that you asked. We're going to go with an offense or a defensive focus every day, and we're going to mix special teams in. So we're going to go out, and for us, we're going to go out and we're going to dynamic flex for 10 minutes. We don't do a static flex. We're going to do a dynamic flex for 10 minutes. And then for me, what I believe in, honestly, is when we get out of flex, we're going to do a brief conditioning. We're going to run 440s or 640s, or we're going to run 2 half-gassers. And then we're going to get into our practice plan, because I think the game of football is constantly played with kids in a state of mind where they're physically exhausted and they're tired and they've got to be able to think under those parameters. So I don't do it to punish my kids. I don't do it to be a hard ass and say this is the way we do things. I do it because when we go to teach them, whether it be an indie or a team period, when we go to teach them, I want them to be a little bit mentally fatigued and tired, because that's how they play and that's how they learn. So we go from a static dynamic stretch to either a 5-minute live period, competition period. If there's not going to be a 5-minute live competition period, we're going to go from a dynamic stretch to a mild conditioning sprints, 20s, 40s, 60s, 440s, 260s, 2 half-gassers, whatever it's going to be. We're going to go to that, and then we're going to go into the next portion of practice, because if we're teaching them and I want them to learn, I want them to be tired when they learn and mentally duress when they learn. So, yeah, limited contact is a big deal. Limited teaching is a big deal. So you got to be guided accordingly. So I agree with you 100%, Ben. All right, so it's going on 9:30. We've been on for about an hour and 20 minutes. I am going to sign off now. My the nut jobs that were on here earlier from a different location are now home. So me being live with my daughter and my wife and other people being home is going to be tough to do. I appreciate every one of you for following me. I appreciate you for watching this. I appreciate you for commenting. And again, anytime you have any questions you want to ask me. I'll answer everything I can. Now that I know that this webcam works and this headset works, we will do this next week. Thank you for everything you guys do. Stay safe. Here's the door. Here it comes.
Hello.
There they are, people. There they are, the Rat Society. There's Baby Pepper. And here's why I'm signing off and getting off right now, because the rats.
Please Venmo me so I can get a black cat, please.
Yes,
I need one. My mom abuses me.
All right, I will see you next time. I appreciate all of you. Thank you.